Welcome to the Explainer. Today, we are unpacking a massive, really exciting shift in artificial intelligence. We're looking at how we can finally take the totally unpredictable AI black box and turn it into a transparent glass box, specifically for high-stakes legal reasoning. Because let's face it, if you've ever watched an AI struggle to apply the law without making things up, you know this is basically the holy grail of legal tech.
So let me ask you something right off the bat. Would you honestly trust an AI to defend you in court? It's a huge question, right? It hits on trust, liability, and the very real dangers of relying on generative AI in the legal world. Because look, we all love how well AI can draft an email or brainstorm ideas, but interpreting complex statutory regulations, that is a completely different ballgame. Just listen to this brilliant point from our research. An insurance underwriter that hallucinates policy terms, or a healthcare agent that misapplies HIPAA guidelines, poses a compliance and liability risk, not just a quality problem. An AI that confidently guesses or hallucinates the law isn't just making a little mistake, it's creating massive legal liability. If an AI writes a clunky poem, that's just a quality problem. But if it hallucinates a tax deduction, that's a direct compliance violation that lands companies in court. The stakes are simply way too high for guesswork.
Okay, here's our roadmap for today's explainer. 1. AI's legal hallucination problem. 2. Enter Neurosymbolic AI. 3. The SOLAR framework explained. 4. T-box and A-box demystified. And 5. The proof is in performance.
Starting with Section 1, AI's legal hallucination problem. Here's the core issue. Large language models, the actual foundation of generative AI, are basically giant probabilistic prediction engines. They are absolutely brilliant at mimicking language and sounding human, but they completely fall apart when it comes to the strict logical rigor you need for statutory analysis. If you toss complex multi-step tax laws at them, they will actually spit out totally contradictory results for nearly identical cases. And why does that happen? Well, it's because they just don't have a true internal rulebook to follow.
Which brings us to Section 2, Enter Neurosymbolic AI. Think of this like the ultimate brain versus calculator team-up. On one side, you have neural AI, your standard generative AI. It's incredibly flexible, it understands natural language beautifully, but yeah, it's prone to hallucinations. On the other side, you have symbolic AI, which is the older, traditional form. It's rigid, it's highly logical, and it's strictly deterministic, but it completely struggles to understand natural language. So neurosymbolic AI essentially asks, what if we marry the language-understanding brain of neural AI with the strict deterministic calculator of symbolic AI?
Let's move on to Section 3, the SOLAR framework explained. Let's break down the knowledge acquisition phase. Instead of just dumping a giant legal statute into an AI and crossing our fingers hoping for the best, SOLAR uses specialized agents that act almost like little detectives. You have a concept extraction agent and a rule formulation agent analyzing the raw statute text. They actively pull out core concepts and build strict logical rules, integrating them into a formal knowledge base known as a T-box. And the really cool part is that all of this happens before a single user query is ever asked.
Okay, Section 4, T-box and A-box, demystified.
So what actually is a T-box? It stands for terminological box. But honestly, just think of it as the ultimate blueprint or recipe. It acts as the strict rulebook representing the classes, properties, and unbending logical rules of the law itself. For example, a T-box for tax law would strictly define exactly what a taxpayer is and lay out the exact math for an itemized deduction. It is literally the law, translated perfectly into pure logic. Now, the A-box, or assertional box, represents the unique facts of your specific case. If the T-box is our recipe, the A-box contains the specific ingredients you're bringing to the kitchen. It takes a messy, real-world human situation, something like Alice earned $30,000 and is unmarried, and maps those factual assertions flawlessly onto the blueprint of our T-box.
Now, in the knowledge application stage, the system takes the natural language user query and maps those specific facts onto the T-box blueprint to build an A-box. Then, and this is where the magic really happens, it hands that completely structured data over to a symbolic inference agent. It essentially runs a math and logic solver to calculate a legally sound, totally deterministic answer. No guessing, absolutely no hallucinating, just pure auditable logic.
And finally, Section 5, the proof is in performance.
The numbers here are just absolutely staggering. Researchers tested this on the SARA dataset, which is a notoriously difficult benchmark for statutory tax reasoning.
When standard foundational language models were given the text to figure out on their own, they achieved a really dismal 18.8% accuracy. But when those exact same models were routed through the Solar framework's neurosymbolic process, their accuracy skyrocketed to an incredible 76.4%. That is literally a four-fold jump simply by structuring the reasoning process.
Plus, it's vastly more efficient. Because Solar relies on a compact, pre-compiled T-box blueprint, it doesn't have to read and reread the entire massive statutory text every single time you ask it a question. The research showed it reduces token usage by about 45%. It drops from nearly 8,000 tokens down to roughly 4,000 per query. In the real world, that saves an immense amount of compute power, latency, and of course, money.
But my absolute favorite stat is this one: 5.9%. By using this framework, researchers shrank the performance gap between cheap, everyday foundational models and those highly expensive, super slow reasoning models down to a mere 5.9 percentage points. This effectively democratizes high-level legal AI. It totally proves that we don't necessarily need infinitely massive, expensive models to do complex legal work. We just need smarter, structured frameworks to guide the ones we already have.
But look, the biggest win here isn't just about raw accuracy or saving cash. It is the transparency. We have officially created explicitly verifiable inspection points. If the AI denies a claim or calculates a tax penalty, human lawyers can actually open up the A box and the T box to audit the exact logical pathway the AI took. We have finally turned the unpredictable black box into an auditable glass box.
So, to wrap this up, what do you need to take away from today's explainer? Basically, combining neural language capabilities with symbolic logic fundamentally changes how AI interacts with the law. It gives us verifiable reasoning steps and a completely transparent ontology through the T-box and A-box. It ensures deterministic rule application that doesn't just change based on the model's mood that day. And ultimately, it guarantees that AI operates safely within strict legal bounds, dramatically reducing legal liability for enterprises.
I want to leave you with a thought to chew on as we move further into this algorithmic society. The biggest hurdle for AI has always been trust, right? But when machines can finally prove their legal logic step by step, and when their reasoning is as completely transparent as a glass box, how is that going to totally reshape the justice system, corporate compliance, and the actual role of lawyers forever? It is a fascinating future, and Neurosymbolic AI is clearly the key to unlocking it. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and keep learning.